Thanks for joining us for the Long Island Sound Podcast. Each week we explore new music and dive deeper with the artists and their stories behind the music. Please subscribe and rate and review us wherever you stream this podcast. Here's your host, Steve Yusko.
You know, it took me a while to nail down today's guest, but it was well worth the wait. Kerry Kearney is a master slide guitar dobro player, well known around Long Island, in fact, around the world. He's respected by fellow musicians and has played with an amazing cast of celebrities. We take a wild ride as Kerry recounts so many great stories of his musical career. He's an ambassador to the blues, he's a showman, but I found him to be an easygoing guy. Let's take a listen to his song, Memphis High.
I got my pair of shoes. I'm gonna love you, baby, but I gotta play some blues. Well, I love to love you, mama, love you high and dry. Yeah, I gonna love you, baby, but I'm still on a Memphis high. I got sweet Susie on my left and I got sweet Mary on my right. Don't know which man I'm gonna love tonight. Well, I'd love to love you, mama, love you high and dry. Yeah, I love you, baby, but I'm still on a Memphis high. And I got sweet Mary on my right. Don't know which mama I'm gonna love tonight. Well, I love to love you, mama, love you high and dry. Oh, I love you, baby, but I'm still on a Memphis high. And my old pair of shoes. Gonna love you, baby, but I gotta play some blues. Well, I love to love you, mama, love you high and dry. Oh, gonna love you, baby, but I'm still on a Memphis high.
Kerry Kearney has been performing the blues for over 40 years, and his band, the Kerry Kearney Band, has been a long-standing staple on the Long Island blues circuit. Combining his master slide guitar prowess with highly original songwriting, Kearney has long dazzled fans and renowned musicians alike with his unique style and sound. He has performed with, and I got to take a deep breath here, there's a lot of people, Sonny Landreth, Robert Randolph, B.B. King, Robert Cray, Blind Boys of Alabama, and the Blues Brothers. He has opened for Billy Gibbons, Kenny Wayne Shepherd, and Leslie West Mountain, featuring the great Warren Hayes. And he's toured with Marty Balin, and we'll get into more of that. He's the Allman Brothers and Dickie Betts. He's an inductee of the New York Blues Hall of Fame. Kearney has earned the respect not only of his fans around the world, but also of his musical peers. And I can attest to that because when I told people who know you that I finally got you on the broadcast. They were like, he's the man. He's got the chops. So welcome to the Long Island Sound podcast, Kerry. So good to have you here.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me.
So I'm reaching you in Breezy Point, right? I'm here in Babylon. So we're
the garden spot of the world.
Which one, Babylon or Breezy Point?
Babylon could be too. It's all we're all garden. We live in gardens. It's garden spots. But let's get back to the garden.
Yeah, we should be the Garden State, not Jersey. I mean, come on.
Yeah, exactly. I'm kidding. Okay.
So, from what I recall, let's just touch on your early history. I think Mom bought you a Japanese guitar for like $35, and you had an interest in it, and then you kind of picked it up a little later.
We were in the city one day, and we were driving along on a bus, and there was like a hock shop somewhere in Manhattan, and we used to live in Brooklyn when I was young. I was born in Bay Ridge, and anyway, so we're going along the avenue, and there was a store, and in the window there was this beautiful red sunburst guitar. What happened was we went into the store, and I remember it was $12. They wanted $12 for it. And
wow.
I picked it out, and the guy took it down. He says, "This is cardboard." And I'm like, I was like, oh, in other words, it wasn't that good of an instrument. So for like $16, he gave me one that was actually real wood. My mother was like, oh my God, another like $3 or $4. I mean, this is 1965 or something, bro.
Yeah, sure.
Right. So that's the guitar I got. And so that was that one. My first electric guitar was about $35. It was in the old Sam Ash over on Kings Highway in Brooklyn. And I wish I still had that. I sold it to a friend of mine as a kid for like $15. I wish I still had that. I still have it, you know what I mean? A guitar like this was probably $25 brand new back in like 61, 62, or even like around 64, say. So when the Beatles were on television, okay, the next day, Sears must have went berserk with parents or around Christmas time and birthdays to get their kids a guitar because they saw the Beatles play. They're a little more expensive because baby boomers that had that and they brought it into the bathtub or they brought it outside and played baseball with it after a couple of years.
Right.
And the thing's destroyed. Now they want to get it again, so they look for it. So they're going for a little bit of money when you find one. You know what I mean? So it's like that.
So let me ask you this. Did Mom and Dad have an influence? Obviously, Mom said okay and saw some sort of talent or a budding of a talent there, but were they musical at all, or did music run in your family?
My mom wasn't. She was an Irish German housewife. She didn't work. She was the woman who took care of my brothers. I had 3 brothers, actually. I have 3 brothers still.
Wow. Okay.
And
great.
Love them dearly, by the way, if they're out there. And
all right.
But my dad was. My dad was extremely. I mean, influential is not even a word. I mean, it was like. My father was a designer for Grumman Aircraft, and he was a painter, my dad. So he tried to get me into the whole system of like drawing. He showed me the paint, the whole thing. I remember smelling the paint, the linseed oil. I could still smell it. I think of him, but for some reason if I smell paint somewhere, I think about it because he had it in the house. But what he did was he was a tinkerer too. He was a guy who my father knew a little bit about everything. Whatever you said or asked, he would know. I would ask him. I wouldn't even go to the encyclopedia. I'd say, Dad, blah, 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 and he would know something about it. He was like very, very well read. I don't know how he had any time, but he was like so well read with stuff like that. But anyway, so back to the thing. He made this thing. It was called the Heath Kit back in the 60s.
Oh, I know the
Heath
Kit.
It was like, Heath Kit. So he had like this palette or these instructions to make a speaker cabinet. And we had a 15-inch speaker inside it. And he had a Macintosh receiver, which was amazing at the time. It was tubes, you see the tubes and everything in it.
Yeah.
And he used to play, he loved classical music, he loved opera, he loved like ballet, he loved all classical stuff. And my brothers and they were very young, were turned on to like, the music of the time. I'm the youngest in my family, so my oldest brother's 72, I'm 62. So back in the 60s, he was 10 and 60, so he was... Obviously, he started buying records when he was about 11 or 12. Then my other brother started doing the same thing during like the hippie years and stuff. And one brother was into folk. He loved that stuff. My brother Tommy, he's out there. Brother Tom, love him to death. Brother TK, Timmy, he was like more of a hippie blues from England. A lot of stuff, a lot of American music. He was into that. And my oldest brother, we were 72. He was the doo-wops. He loved Elvis and all the great Italian vocal groups of the early
Dion
50s.
and the Belmonts and all that.
Oh my God,
sure.
he's
Dion nuts. I mean, still, it's unbelievable.
And Dion's going strong too, man.
He is. A friend of mine who played horn with me a couple times, Arno Hecht. He plays the horn with him. He plays on all his albums. He played the Rolling Stones too, but he plays him. He's great. Wow. Arno, he's played around. He plays around with a lot of people. He's great. And but anyway, so my brothers all got so involved, my father, with the whole thing. So he was very influential in all that stuff and having that like that. We always had a great stereo. Always had that stuff. My brothers were always like hip on buying that latest stuff. And I was like a young kid hearing it all the time. So, and my older brother, he played guitar. I remember going to the store with him. My dad brought him a Mustang, a Fender Mustang in '65. A red, beautiful red, like a fire engine red. It's called Dakota Red. And I remember going to the store. I remember the way the case smelled. I remember the whole thing about it. I was like so psyched. It was great. But that really turned me on big time. But it's funny. I would hear music on the radio, blah, 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 but I watched my brother actually play it. You know what I mean? So it was right there. And that's what really, it blew me away all the time. So that was great.
I always find the influences of, my dad was into the classical music as well. Right. My dad was a tinkerer. The Grumman thing is really interesting because I grew up in Bethpage. Everybody that I knew worked for Grumman or a subsidiary that fed Grumman, some engineers and stuff like that. Just really an interesting company at the time that really fed Long Island. But I also look at my older siblings, my sisters. I had twin sisters and an older sister who was 4 years older than me, and their albums had a big influence on me. So my twin sisters, who are 11 years older than me, one liked the Beatles and one liked the Beach Boys. That was the split, So okay. I got the best of both worlds of, when they locked their albums up in their room, I learned how to break locks and listen to the albums, get that influence.
Oh, yeah, there you go.
Which is really great. So did your other siblings continue with music, or were you the one who really kind of, got
one brother, he's a guitar builder, actually. The guitars I play are guitars he built. And that's like my main thing. It's interesting because it's a telly type body. What he did was he went to school, actually, for learning how to build instruments out in, it's called Roberto Venn. It's out in Arizona, I think it was, or maybe it was Colorado, somewhere around there. Okay. And but he went there to learn how to build stuff, and he came back and he kept building. And he still is into like luthier stuff. And he took a Telecaster and he traced it by hand, and he did the whole thing actually by hand. And that's the guitar I play. It's a hollow Telecaster. But it's my own sound too. It's like I feel like it's my own thing. I mean, I try to emanate, blues music and this and that, blah blah blah. But it's my own, thing. In other words, like I always say, with an instrument, it's like 90%, the physicalness of it, or the way it all works. No, to tell you the truth, 90% is you, and about 10%, that's it, is the mechanics of what's going on. That's how you get a Santana or a Jerry Garcia. Or I remember seeing Peter Frampton one time when I was younger, and he played an acoustic guitar, and it sounded just like he does. Like there was nothing, no trickery, and his hand just made it sound like him. Jerry Garcia too. There's an acoustic album with him, with David Grisman. They have a couple of albums together playing acoustic, and you can just tell it's him in 3 or 4 notes. It's just, it doesn't have to be through the amps and through that stuff. So a lot of it is what you're purveying, how your hand is, and how things are. That's what makes everybody so individual on guitars that are the same. You have 5 guys on a Stratocaster, but 5 guys are sounding different, even though it's the same instrument. Right. It's still it's their own hand doing it. So, but
why don't we do this? I'm really interested. Now, you found your voice in the blues, okay, and some other genres that we can speak of. What I find fascinating about the blues is, and if you know the history of the blues, it's a call and response from the fields of, in the Delta, of the back and forth or the ebb and tide between the singer and his audience. Now, I want to point something out that. So I watched you. I went to the Long Island Blues Society fundraiser for the trip to Memphis yesterday. It was on a Sunday at the warehouse. And something I really like what you did is you really, you can be very proficient performer, but you cross into being a showman and an entertainer in the best way, in that you engage the audience. I think it was the song Jelly.
Oh, Shaking Like Jelly.
Shaking Like Jelly.
Like jelly,
yeah, and you immediately engaged the audience, and you called people, particularly females, to come up and dance. And not everybody recognizes that you need to engage that audience. And I saw that immediately, how you did that, and I thought that was really great. Because people go to have fun, to hear music. Music changes you in a lot of ways.
I've always felt blues music can be, there's a certain seriousness about it, obviously, and this and that. There's it's funny. Some people think it's simplistic, and it could be in a what word I'm looking for, not in a modal way, but in like a musical foundation.
You break it down to the technique, the 12 bar, and
it's only a couple of chords. In a lot of ways, it's and a lot of people can play 3 chords, but if you can play it where it's really, it has the feel of it. There's a certain thing. I remember an old friend of mine, a guitar player friend. He passed away recently, actually. A very, very nice guy. He told me, he goes, I don't know. He goes, I listen to Son House, I listen to Muddy Waters, but I find myself keep going back to Stevie Ray Vaughan all the time. And like he kind of like missed out, or I think he misses the boat on, there's a mood there. And as soon as you understand what the mood is, that's where you can understand where these people are coming from and why they are who they are. As a young kid, I was maybe around 11 or 12, my brother, I had on Layla on, the album Layla. And I was listening to Abby of Love the Woman. And I was trying to figure out the notes and just sitting there playing. So my brother goes, hold on a second. My older brother, the one who built the guitar, TK. And he says, hold on. So he put on an album called Live at the Regal by B.B. King. It's a live album from the Regal Theater in Chicago.
Sure.
64. And it's B.B. King's best record, I think. His singing, everything is just amazing on it. And he put it on, and the first couple of notes I heard, I says, wow, it sounds like Eric. And he goes, no. Eric sounds like him. You don't understand. This is before Eric. This is where it comes from. These guys take it from that. So the education I got from that was interesting. Guys like Clapton, Page, Beck, all the greats of like the British blues guys, Peter Green, of course, Mick Taylor, all these monsters of that genre. John Mayall, who just was the root of it all. A lot of Alexis Korner, another guy, the root of all these guys. So what it is that I found that I could get my education like they did. What did they listen to? Instead of me getting it secondhand and being a secondhand, copy of something else, a next generation or regeneration or something, I want to know where they got there, how they did what they did. And that was the best education ever, to see that, to feel that, and how my brother did that. He showed me this is what it is, and I delved into it. When I first did, it was so odd, it was so weird. The music, it was so. I remember my mother walking into the room and going, "What is this music? Was this blues?" I'm like, "Yeah." I said, "I'm really big and taken by it." She goes, "It's great, But it's like it's really funny how people just don't. They want to be Steve Ray Vaughan, and I can tell when they're playing sometimes. Like they're playing good, they're playing really fast, they're playing blah, blah, blah. But they're lacking that a couple of notes that are going to be a little slower and are going to grab you. B.B. King can grab you with one note. The guy plays 1 or 2 notes. I know it's B.B. King. And I had the pleasure and the graciousness of, I thank God and the person who got me the shows. But I opened up with B.B. King 3 times. And it was the most amazing thing to actually hear him do it. He was in his older age, but still it was like, here's the, it's the Beatles of the blues, like standing right, there he is. It's the Rolling Stone. It's the greatest thing, And he crossed over to popular people know him. Everybody, he played, I don't know how many gigs a year, but everybody knows the word B.B. King, the name B.B. King. People might know, Buddy Guy, blah, blah, blah. Robert Johnson, not many, people know him now. But like some of these greats that are monsters, but B.B. King it's on everybody's list. You know who B.B. King is, and that's
You're right.
Like I said, when you listen to the greats like that, you get this mood, and it's a mood. If you don't have the mood, or you can't emanate the mood or understand it, then it's hard to purvey it. I think
Yeah, so it's interesting, and if you look at the way you approached something I know you love, and you go to the origins. And you want to get the influence in your way, the way Clapton got it or anybody else got it. And I just want to talk about one other thing about the blues, and you be honest with me, is what I like about the blues. It can be solemn, It can be lamenting how horrible things are, but it can come back into light. And what I like from a knucklehead in the audience, at least this is the feeling I get in many blues songs, is, wow, somebody else feels the way I felt. I'm not the only one who feels this way about a certain thing, that you might be worried about or what have you. And that's what I like about the blues and the back and forth, the ebb and tide, the back and forth between the audience and the singer and the instruments, really, when you come down to it. Listening to you play slide guitar after either you sing a verse or somebody else sings a verse, that is a really beautiful back and forth. That's an interpretation of what's coming from my soul in a vocal and through your fingers on the slide guitar. I think it's kind of amazing.
Something too is when you think of an individual or a musician, and you kind of like you single them out, say, as a virtuoso or whatever it is you want to call somebody. It doesn't happen by itself. You need a good band, number one.
Yes.
If you don't have a good band, what you do, I can't say, I don't get on people's talent or whatever, blah, blah, blah. It's just sometimes the chemistry might not be there, so they could be good for something else. You know what I'm saying? But for like what I like to do is I have like the greatest like backing band. I have a really, really fantastic solid drummer, Mario Stiano, who played with
get that rhythm section, yep.
Yeah, and he was with Savoy Brown and Kim Simmons, the guitar player, just passed away. It's really sad. And Kim Simmons from the '60s. So he was in that band, and so was my bass player Jerry. Jerry was in the band first and got Mario to play with him, and they're so tight. I'm not even listening. That's how tight it is to me. And so I don't have to listen. I'm just riding on that wave with them. We're in the same place, the same boat, in the same head. And sometimes I'm playing with people and I have to kind of think what I'm doing. And if I don't have to think, it's the greatest feeling when you're like that. And I give a blessing to everyone. I say, I hope that everybody out there, if you're in a band, can find people like that you play with. And it's just perfect. It's like I could just sit there and close my eyes and just be in another world and I know they're with me and that we're all, it's really something. It's a great feeling. It really is. It's a drug feeling. It's whatever you want to call it, a euphoric thing, that makes it happen. And some nights it's really just amazing. I can feel, just really taking off. All nights aren't going to be good. That's another thing too, to a musician is, to a band. It can't always be, you have to have bad gigs once in a while. Because then you don't know what the good ones are, because it's just like raining and having it sunny out. It's like you don't know what the sunshine is and be so psyched about it unless you had 3 days of rain. So if you have a couple of bad gigs, or if you feel like you've had bad, I've had people come up to me, I feel like I really played just awful. I think, oh my God. And people come up to me and say, oh, you smoke. I never saw you play ever better. And I'm like, what were you watching? Are you watching this? Are you watching the TV? Like, what are you doing? I don't, but it's funny how, but when I feel like I'm doing my personal best, or I feel like I'm in a zone, that's the greatest feeling, you know what I mean? And like I said, having a backing band like these people, just, is the best.
What's interesting, what I'm pulling from that is, so I used to give homilies and stuff in another life, and I learned a great lesson. I was a deacon in the Catholic Church, and our homiletics teacher told us, he goes, it's not what you think you said, it's what the audience heard. And that's the feedback that, you like you said, I was really off today, but they heard something fantastic. They heard something different than I heard, and that's probably a good lesson for a musician. It depends on what the audience hears and sees and experiences. And yeah, people I'm sure have come up to you and say, that made me cry, or whatever, it brings that emotion.
Touching people like that, like as yourself, as a deacon, I'm a Catholic also, so I got my cross on my arm from Ireland.
Mine's up there.
But there you go.
Oh, and on your arm, yeah, right.
Well, I'm on right there, yeah, my Celtic cross.
Celtic cross, yep.
I understand what you're saying, because when you did that, and you're trying to get through to people. As a musician, also, I'm trying to get through to people. I'm trying to purvey something. You know what I mean? I'm trying to sell something, not monetarily, but as like an artist, I'm trying to sell something to get through to somebody. You know what I mean? And that's the key to it. But you don't know who you're getting through to. So learned after a while just to not give an excuse and say, "Oh, thank you," because it really could. So I don't want to sway what they felt or thought. I'd rather just say, "Oh, thank you very much. You heard something good. That's great." And I'll go and I'll just, you're only as good as your last movie, as they say. You know what I mean? And or your last book or last gig. That's the way I feel about stuff. And sometimes I'll come home like really euphoric, like really high about it, not be able to sleep even, just having a great, oh man, it's a great time tonight. This is great. Da da da. You know what I mean? And some nights I feel like I just got to practice more or something. I'll woodshed for a couple of days, which is always good. Woodshedding is always a great thing.
Absolutely. Don't make me depressed, because then I got to dust off my guitars. Hey, let's do this, Kerry. Let's just take a quick break, and I want you to play a song for our audience when we come back. So Stick with us, everybody. More interesting stuff to come, I promise you. At the Long Island Sound, we're much more than a podcast. We're building a community. Please go to gigdestiny.com. Check out all our social media links. Subscribe wherever you listen to the podcast. Please comment. Call the listener line. Tell us what you think, what questions we should ask, who we should have on the show. And most of all, we thank you for your generous support. And remember, support the artists who are guests on the show. Now back to the podcast. Hey everybody, this is Steve Yusko, your host, and I am fortunate enough to have Kerry Kearney with us. Kerry's going to play some music for us, so take it away, Kerry.
This is my trusty old Silvertone. This is another early 60s Silvertone, actually. And there's something about it. It's all veneer wood. It's not solid, but it has such the sound that a lot of those guys look for. And a lot of the old blues guys didn't really have any money back then, so they went for a cheap instrument like that. That's why it always killed me when you saw Clapton playing, hanging out with a really, really rare Martin guitar from like the 1930s that nobody could afford back then. And he's wearing a $5,000 Armani suit playing blues. It always got me, so. But here we go.
Tell us about the slide first.
I had contacted the man from Rocky Mountain Slides a while ago about getting a slide, maybe check it out. And he sent me a whole bunch of them. And he actually put me in one of his ads for the slide, which is great. Wow. But this slide is actually a little while. I'll bring my other slides around. I have a whole collection of slides. I'll show you different things. But this is actually made out of some kind of rock, some kind of mineral or something like that. It's really, really wild. This red piece here. It's got like little like veins and look like little spider webs. And it's got weight to it too. The more weight I find, the better, and the higher the action. In other words, higher the strings are off the guitar, the better the better the tone is. And it has like a little bit of sustained sound.
Let me ask you a novice question about a slide. Are they sized the way you would size a ring on a finger?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, some guys use it on their pinky. A lot of guys, pinky guys like that. Guys like, I think Johnny Winter, plays it on his pinky. He plays a big a metal slide. I have a couple of those I'll show you later. He has a copper slide or a brass slide. This is the Dwayne type. Is the one on this finger here on the ring finger. Derek Trucks, of course. I can't think. A lot of guys use it like that. Some people, Joe Walsh, Dickie Betts, and Bonnie Raitt played on the middle finger, which I find very awkward.
Take it away.
Okay. There you go. I hit a couple of wrong notes. I hit a couple of wrong notes, but
I didn't notice a thing.
No, it's jazz. It's jazz.
Yeah, when you string a guitar for slide, do you use a particular type of string?
Yeah, I use a heavier string. This is actually, it's a little lighter. These are 11s. A heavier string would be like a 12. They call it lights, but they're actually kind of heavy 12s. But the way this neck is, the neck's a little bowed. It's a little bent. It's a little like bow and arrow right here, which is what you want because you want it to be high like that. If you're playing a slide like that, you want that distance between the frets in there. And interesting about slide, if you're a novice slide player out there or you want to learn how to play slide, I'm playing, when you hit a note, okay, what's happening is the fret in front of your finger is making the note. It's making the sound of the note. So if I'm going like this, it's right here that's making the sound. This is behind the note. Okay? If I'm playing a slide, I got to play on the fret itself. So if here's the fret, I'm behind it, but there's the metal piece. The metal fret is where the actual tone is. So so when I'm playing,
and you're bending your arm a little bit more differently than you would be playing a chord because you're twisting it a little bit to be parallel to that fret, correct?
Yeah, and you got to be kind of like straight across. I'll give you an example. Here it is, like just here's a C chord. But if I was bent, it would be like it's a little out of tune.
Oh,
you got to be like right on top of it. So that's a little technique too at the same time. And also, I'm also dampening behind the slide. If I didn't dampen, it would sound like this. But with dampening behind it goes because I'm stopping the string noise. This is the hardest part of the slide, not the slide itself. Is this hand, because what I'm doing is when I'm picking, I'm holding other strings down. So if I play the last string, the 3 strings, I'm holding this, holding those 2, then I'm holding those 2, and then I'm going to go down, and these are holding these strings down. If I didn't do that,
so you're dampening.
But dampening is. Yeah, I'm dampening it down like that. It's like, it's funny.
Nice.
I learned how to do that pretty easy, but it is a whole another ball game when you have to dampen strings when you're playing it. And if you're doing it quickly, that's the part. It's like almost like typing. You get your fingers going.
Yeah, it's almost like when you play a banjo and you have the roll going, I guess, with your fingers to some degree.
But the only thing different, though, is that you're not dampening strings, though. When you're doing it, I'll tell you what. Hold on a second. Let me do this really quick.
Oh, hey, we're getting a free lesson. Nice.
I don't. I have a couple of Arch-top guitars. Nothing really too expensive though, because I find I don't play Arch-top guitars a lot, so it'd be kind of a waste for me to have like a beautiful L5 or something. Well, I have one, but so this is a finger picking pattern. This is like a Mississippi John Hurt type thing.
Right.
But so I do that a lot. I finger pick a lot. I sit down, diddle like that.
Gotcha. Hey, let's do this because I found the story so interesting as far as, everyone, when you made that break or you got that break. And if I recall, you were about just to go into the police department. So maybe you could pick it up from there and tell people how you went on this 5-year sojourn in your career, early in your career.
A friend of mine lived in California. He was the road manager for the Jefferson Starship, the airplane at one time, back in the 60s and stuff like that. And what he did was he ran an old church for Marty Balin. He was the caretaker of the Church of San Anselmo, it was called. It's north of San Francisco, right next to, it's near Sausalito, it's near Mill Valley, it's a whole hub of all these beautiful towns that are there. So we were talking one night, I used to talk to him all the time on the phone. First he said, bring your band out. I have an opening for you guys. You want to open up for this band called Cantner, Balin, and Cassidy. And it was Marty Balin, Paul Cantner, and Jack Cassidy of Hot Tuna and the Airplane.
Yeah, sure.
And they had this band. So it was them, Big Brother and the Holding Company, and us. We were the opening band. And it was at the Palace of Fine Arts in San Francisco. This beautiful, beautiful theater at this beautiful, it was like a Roman rustic big area there. It's gorgeous. So, all the beautiful sandstone and stuff they made it out of. So anyway, so my band and we flew out. They took care of everything. We did the opener. We did our little meeting and whatever we did. And after I walked off the stage, Marty Balin came up, he ran up to me, he says, "Holy smoke!" He goes, "You're a great guitar player, blah blah blah." And I thought he was being nice. I thought he was just being friendly to me,
being generous. Yeah.
I was like kind of like I felt great. So whatever. So time went on. A few months went down the line. We went home. That week, whatever. So months would come by. I was all ready to go into the academy. I was probably about another month. I was all ready to go in to be a New York City police.
So you passed the test and everything. You were ready to go.
Everything, my psychological, which is kind of odd, but all that stuff. Everything was fine. So he just called. I said, "Listen, I got to go. Next month. Well, I'm not really too happy with that. I got to change my whole ways of doing things." And he was like saying, "Get on a plane. Just get on a freaking plane and come out here. Just come on out. I have guitars here. It's beautiful. It's gorgeous out here. The weather is beautiful. Come on out. Blah blah blah." So I went out there, and I didn't know, but he called Marty Balin, and he said, that kid is here. You like? I was like 27 or something. That kid is here that you like the way he played. So I didn't know. So he came over, and I'm sitting on the couch, and he walked in, and I was like, "Oh, hey, how you doing?" And he goes, "Hey, what's going on? You want to jam a little bit?" I said, "Sure." So we played a couple of tunes. About an hour.
Just the two of you?
Just me and him, yeah, on the couch.
Okay.
And he said, he goes, "Listen, I'm coming back tomorrow with some stuff. You want to work something out with me? Are you here for a while?" I was like, "Yeah, I'm here for about a week or so." And he goes, "Okay, I'll bring some songs if you want to work it out. I'd like to see what you think, what your ideas are with it." I said, "Okay, what the hell?" So we played the next day. After we played, he says, "Listen, I'm going on tour for 3 months, and I need a guitar player. I'd love you to play with me. I'd love you to be my guitar player." And I was like,
"Wow."
I just, I didn't balk at it for a second about that I was going to go to the academy. Yeah, it's like, holy smoke. So I called back home. I got all my gear together, put all my stuff on a plane, flew it out there. I didn't know how long. This was going to be 3 months, you know what I mean? So we get there. So
sure,
for about,
anything can happen.
So we were going out February 1st, actually. So for like a month or so, I had to learn like 60 songs and all this stuff. So I would sleep there. I mean, that's where I stayed, on the couch of this big church. And one day downstairs, I heard this song. It's called Combination of the Two. And it's a Janis Joplin song from Big Brother and the Holding Company. I heard a band playing it in the big band room they had downstairs. The old church was the whole church area was all sprayed with stuff to stop dampen the whole area. You know what I mean? I'm hearing this music, and I walk downstairs and I peek in, and it's Big Brother and the Holding Company, without Janis, of course, another woman playing. But every guy in the band was in the band still. They were still playing. It's like, wow. So I'm looking through the glass, and the guitar player like waved me in, like, "Hey, come on in. What's going on?" And I was like, "How you doing?" I was like, I'm Kerry. I'm Marty's new guitar player. I'm playing with him. And they're like, "Oh, great, blah, blah, blah." So we started talking guitar. And all of a sudden that night, I had a gig with him. He was a guitar player, Sam Andrew, really sweetheart. And he's gone now. I loved him so much. He's great. And I really miss him. And he said, "I have a band. We do like I play horn. I play sax, drummer, bass player. Would you play guitar?" And I was like, "I'd love to." So for those like that month, as I was making a little extra money, I was going out playing with him like every night, like in the area, like just local stuff. It was amazing
that's
how
cool.
great it was. But that was a great thing. So as I'm doing that, and in the daytime I practiced with the band with Marty, we learned songs and stuff like that. And one day, a bus came by, a big tour bus came right outside the place. A big Eagle, it's called an Eagle Coach, it's 45 feet. It sleeps 12 people, 12 bunks, got a stateroom in the back. It was unbelievable. Had a chair right next to when you walk in the door, there's a chair right there you could sit in, a seat, and right next to the driver. And I sit there and I used to jam, and he used to sing. He used to love singing and stuff like that all night long. Got a cup of coffee, we'd play, it'd be great. That thing came, they went downstairs, got my gear, threw it underneath into the cargo. I got on the bus, and I didn't come back for 5 years. I was on the road. I mean, I played every big city, every state except Alaska or Hawaii really? On the continent of the United States, North America. Everywhere, I played everywhere, every place.
It's amazing, that education you get. Now, I'm in sales, and this has nothing to do with music, but early in my career, I got to travel a lot. And in the beginning, there's something romantic about it. You're a road warrior. You get to think, you get to write, you're in your own bubble on the bus, and that's why a lot of music's written on the road, But then it can wear on you. So I got to ask you, what were the good takeaways from being on the road, and what were some of the things that were difficult about being on the road for you?
Well, I'll tell you what, I was thinking about it when you were saying something like that. The hardest thing that I found at first was like the first week. And we were, as a joke in the touring industry, they say the way you get a tour and how they map it is Ray Charles plays darts with the United States on the wall.
Okay.
So in other words,
Right.
when it goes down, it's a stupid joke, but that's a joke that they say. That's how. Why are you here and why are you there? Why are you in Kansas and then you're
Doesn't
in
make
Chicago?
sense, right?
Yeah, but they do that. That's how they put things together a lot of times. So that's just the way it is. But I remember playing. It was the third night, and I mean I didn't sleep well. I didn't eat well. I drank a lot of coffee. I didn't smoke cigarettes. I was about 9 pounds at the time, and I was young, and so. I would, after a gig, I'd be so psyched and so like, I can't believe it. I have to sometimes I close my eyes saying, am I really here? This is amazing. And then I would play with the bus driver. His name was Randy. He was a road manager and a driver for David Crosby for years. He was his guy. So we're driving. I play guitar with him all night. We'd be going through Salt Lake City. There's nobody on the road. We're just jamming stuff, and it's great. He knows every song in the world. I played every song that driver knew. I was just saying a song. Anyway, so
Right.
so I mean, I would do that, and then I'd try to get some sleep, and then all of a sudden we were at a sound check at 2 p.m. So we get to a town 400 miles later. I get up, they'd set everything up, and I go up and I do a little sound check and da-da-da. Then I rest a little bit, and then we get on stage. And so by the third night, I really felt it because I really didn't sleep well. And I was in this euphoric thing going on. And I was and there's a little bit of a anticipation before you get on. It's an anxiety a little bit, but a good anxiety.
Sure.
And so I'm just about to go on one night, and I said, is this really what I want? Do I really want to do this? And it was a question that I questioned for literally 3 seconds. I mean, it was this is what it is. I could be doing something else in life that I'm not going to want to do. And I'm blessed to be here. And that was it. Also, I got a second wind, and I walked out and played, and it was just fantastic. And that was the last time I said I have any regrets about something. I never really had a regret. It was more or less just this physical thing that you feel. I could see why people do drugs, though. I could see why people take things to go to sleep, and then if they're so grogged out, they have to take something to get awake. You know what I mean? It's not even partying and let me have a couple of beers and let me get drunk and let me get blah, blah, blah. Let me get high. It's more or less, it's a physical thing to make yourself work. You know what I mean? But I see that, so.
I agree with you. I was, believe it or not, I was a steam fitter in New York City for a couple of years when I was out of work. And, at that time, you're going home at 3:00 in the afternoon and you're watching guys bring 12 packs on and they're doing physical labor. It's painful. You're up and down ladders and stuff like that. And obviously we know it complicates your life, but they're almost anesthetizing themselves from pain. Maybe I'm rationalizing it, that adds more pain to your life when you go overboard and stuff like that. And you can see how you get into that a cycle, a dangerous cycle. So I'm glad you
also,
weren't in.
Their individual lives, you don't know what's going on in their personal life.
Oh yeah, right.
It could be doing that too. It's that stuff at the same time. So that whole thing, I really didn't have a personal life in a lot of ways. I was literally I was homeless, vagabond, living on a tour bus and in hotels, and just
but I felt that's a blessing.
But I felt myself, yeah, absolutely. I know that then. I know that now. But it's now it's for me to go out and hop on a plane or something like that, whatever. I used to fly a lot then too. I was always flying. And it was, that whole thing was something that I don't really like to do anymore. I don't like to fly. I haven't flown in a while. The last time I flew, I was played in Ireland about 10 to 12 years ago. I did the Guinness Blues Festival. And I went to that. That was pretty wild, actually. That's where I got my tattoo, actually, in Ireland. But
nice.
It was something that, it's a lot of, it's just, all right, is it a glamorous life? People look at it, they think about it, they dream of this and that.
Yeah.
It definitely is in one sense, if you look at yourself, if you are something that you don't like to do in life, if you have a job that you hate. And as the old saying goes, if you can do in life what you love, you never work a day in your life.
Right.
To me, that's basically it. I mean, there are times I'll complain about something, and I'll what am I complaining about? I can't complain. This is ridiculous. You know what I mean?
Yeah. You know what's interesting about sorry to cut you off, being a vagabond and being free, on the contrary, when I did a lot of traveling by plane and I was married early in our marriage, and the weirdest feeling is coming home to your own bedroom, and the Hampton Inn is more familiar to you because they're all the same. Okay.
Oh yeah.
But the other thing was the other thing the challenge was for me is if there's not, because men, we always like to fix things, so if the spouse is having difficulty with something, or God forbid you leave angry with each other, or something happens and you're away for 4 days, that's a tough position to be in. So I can understand people with families, that's why they bring them on the road, so that they can still be in community together and go for that. The other thing I struggled with, so so when you're with your band, you have community with you, and that has its own struggles too, to a certain degree. So you did, let me ask you this. So you did it for 5 years. Why did it stop? Why didn't it just keep going?
Well, with the band that I was playing with him, he moved to Florida. He got married, moved to Florida. And I still stayed on with him, for a little while. We still played together. But that brings me to the next chapter. When I came home, a dear friend of mine financed, I did an album with Marty, a CD in New Hampshire. And it was called GWE. It was a company that, this magazine, it was the only digital magazine. It was like at its infancy, pretty much. It was a CD review magazine, actually. They started signing some people. They signed Joe Walsh. They did stuff with all these people. And Marty was one of the guys they did it with. And so I did an album with him with that. We did a lot of promotion for that too. It was interesting. And all over the place. And we went out with an album. And they asked me if I would do an album with them, the company. You know what I mean? And at that time, Marty was going to Florida after the whole tour we did and stuff like that. And I ended up going home to New York, where I am now. And a friend of mine helped finance it, actually. He was a doctor friend of mine, very, very, very. And what he did, what his job was, besides being a doctor, he was a pathologist, he worked for Ron Delsner. And what he would do is he would go to a concert for insurance purposes, and he would be the doctor on call. And him doing that, he was in everybody's pocket. Everybody was, he knew everybody that had come in and out of what was going on, blah, blah. And so there was this one man, his name was John Podell, his name was. And John Podell, if you look him up, Podell, Dell, John Podell. He used to work for, I think, Philip Morris, something like that, years. And he was Crosby, Stills and Nash and Young's agent at one time. David Geffen was their personal guy, and John Podell was the guy that was in the gigs. So back then, what happened was he got a little down on his luck, and he was on a park bench. He had nothing. And what happened was a couple of guys that he used to work with came and got him and said, "Listen, we got to, John, you can't do this. You just do, just for your life, just stay alive. You got to get back." So he ended up getting back, quitting everything. He was straight as a board, did everything, got back into it again. And they got this agency called Evolution, they called it. It was like 3 or 4 guys from the old, that company. Philip Morris. Is it Philip Morris? Is Philip Morris the cigarettes?
Yeah, cigarette company. Mm-hmm.
Well, what's the other one? Something Morris. Something Morris.
Morris, yeah, I know what you mean.
Well, I'll look it up. But anyway, I'll look it up. So anyway, so what happened was, so they got together and they opened this company. So they started taking on a lot of bands that he used to know. So the Allman Brothers was one of them. Peter Gabriel was one of them. Always big bands. So he got on top of it. And actually, it was with Aerosmith for a little while. And he went to Steven Tyler and said, "Steven, you got to stop smoking. You got to stop drinking. You got to clean your act up." And I saw him talk about it one night, and he said that John Podell got him to stop, and he helped him with all the stuff. Wow. It was amazing. So in doing that, great. So a friend of mine, I didn't know this. The album that I did, it was called "Blow Your House Down." It was my first blues record. It was in '95, whatever, '96. He gave it to him. I didn't know he gave it to him. And so one morning I got a phone call from somebody, and it was John Podell. I didn't know it was him. I knew a little bit about him. I didn't know much about him then. And he said to me, the first thing he said, I was half asleep. He goes, "Hey man, I love the slidey stuff." And I was like, I didn't know how to. I was, "Oh, thank you." I was like, what's going on? And he goes, "Listen, I'm going out on my boat today with a couple of friends. I'm gonna listen to it again. I'm gonna play it for them, and I'll give you a call later on." I said, "Great."
Okay.
On the phone, I went back to sleep. My friend, the doctor, called me and said, did he call you? I'm like, who? He goes, that was the Allman Brothers agent. I'm like, are you kidding me? I was like, holy smoke. Wow. He called me back later, like maybe the next day. He said, listen, I love what you're doing. And we got to get you another record deal. We got to make a new record. This is an older record. We'll make a new record. I'll put you with the Allman Brothers. I'll put you on tour with them. And that's what we'll do. Wow. We need one record company, and that's it. So I went and met him with the band I was at the time. I went and met him at this restaurant uptown on Madison Avenue. It was called La Sans Calotte. And what that means in French, it means the dirty underwear. That was the name of the restaurant. Okay, it was crazy. Right. So we went there. We had dinner. We talked, blah, 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 blah. A lot of talk. Oh, great. He says, listen, I'm sending a record company down. They're a new label. They're a jazz label that wants to get into blues, and I think they'd be great for you. Okay. And because they're smaller, they'll do a lot of work. It's not going to we're not going to be stuck in some company that's going to put you aside. These guys want to put money behind you. What you need, they're going to do it. And there wasn't a lot of money, but it was enough. So we're playing in Manny's Car Wash. Manny's Car Wash uptown.
Oh, sure, Manhattan. Yep.
Manhattan, yeah. Third Avenue, I think Third Avenue and like 80-something Street, right? I used to play there. We played there all the time. So Saturday night, he sends these guys down. Two guys walk in the door to come in the back room and says, hey, Kerry Kearney, how you doing? We're here to see you. We want to check you out. And I was like, great. So we're sitting there talking about stuff. We have a label. They said, blah, 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 blah. No big deal.
Right.
We get on. We could play. The place was like a sardine can. It was so crowded.
Wow.
And it was long. I went back. And I saw them like near the back, like they were having a drink. I sent them over drinks, everything. It's two guys. Yeah. So anyway, I start playing. And I pick my slide up. I got my dobro out. First song, I'm playing. And I'm just looking out. And in the middle of that song, I saw them walk out the door. Like they left. Oh. Checks out.
Oh, man.
Boom, 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 boom. That Monday morning, I was signing a record contract. Oh. Well, that's all we saw was they have a song. They said, that's it. We knew we want to take it. I couldn't believe it.
You must have you got some guardian angel in your career. That's
just what I mean. And I was like, it was amazing. So their recording studio, which is amazing, it was an old horse barn. It was right near New Hope, Pennsylvania, right? Okay. Right across the Jersey, right across the
oh, yeah, there's a nice town on both sides of the, yeah.
Gorgeous. The French town is there and whatever. But anyway, so we went up there. We probably took maybe about 3 weeks to record the album. I stayed up there, for a while and just did what you had to do. And the album came out and we went out with the Allman Brothers. We were on secondary stages at first, which is kind of weird. We played like all these towns in Midwest, everywhere. But they had like this other stage they were getting on, then the band would play. And then we graduated. I remember getting the call one day when I was there playing. And the guy called me backstage. He said, Kerry, before you come on, I got to talk to you. He says, listen, give me a stage plot, what you're doing, blah, blah, blah. You're going to be on with us. You're going to be on the stage with us. Next couple of shows. Like, oh, my God. So the first big show we did was in the Atlantic City, the Taj Mahal. Okay. And my whole hometown that lived, we lived south of Brooklyn, actually, pretty much. They got busted.
All the Breezy Point.
All came to the show. It was unbelievable.
Oh, how beautiful.
We played it. I was like, it's breezy. I mean, the place was like a little Madison Square Garden. It was huge. I come out and I'm like, it's breezy in the house. And the place erupted. It was unbelievable. It was so great. And what's funny is right outside the doors at the, they have these great big, concert palaces in these places, in these hotels, in these great big casinos. Yeah. And I remember right outside it was a bar, a big, kind of cool, lounge bar. And they had a band playing, she works hard for the money. And they do disco music after the show. Right. So all my friends they all came with me. There's about 100 people, literally. So I went up to the bartender. I said, listen, give me 50 beers. I just played in here. And I want to thank all my friends for coming. Give me 50 beers right now. And he looked at me. He looked at all the people. He says, all right, hold on a second. So he went over a little bit. He took out a big cooler, pulled it over. And he said to me, he says, give me $50. I said, $50?
Come on.
I mean, I would have cost me who knows what. He goes, give me $50. Yeah, right? He goes, you just give me $50. I was like, holy shit. Oh, sorry. So I get that.
No, it's all right.
And all my friends, but it was one of the greatest times ever to be. But then we went on through Chicago and we went, and then Dickie Betts called after that whole thing, and he was on his own, and I went out with him for 3 months. You know what I mean? With the band, it was all over the West Coast. But it's like, and that was all big stage stuff. It was all like, we were all like, we graduated to it. But I remember that one night. I'll always remember that night because all my friends were there, and it was all like, it was just the biggest, greatest feeling
that's like a picture of heaven on earth, really. When you think about it. Let's do this. Let's take a quick break, and when we come back, I'd love you to play another song. I'd like to hear your voice too, cool. And I'd like to explore what the wellspring of talent. And look, you've been called the ambassador for Long Island music because you've helped a lot of people along. So I'd like to do that when we come back for part 2 of my interview with the fabulous Kerry Kearney. Hey, there is so much more to unpack, some really great music, some wild stories of his career and what he's doing next. So stick with us. Thank you for joining us today. I appreciate the time you spent with us. Please subscribe and comment and visit us at gigdestiny.com. Till next time, be generous with your joy, keep your spirits high, and let the music take you on a journey. Be well. Peace.